I want you to imagine an entire generation that was embraced before it even got a chance to take its first breath. Because from 1997 to 2012, they say around 61 million babies were conceived in America. That's what we know today as Gen Z. But here's the dark truth that nobody wants to talk about. 17 million of them never made it out of the womb. That would be 28%, basically more than a quarter of an entire generation completely gone. Now, back in the 1960s, before abortion was normalized, okay, those numbers were almost non-existent, just a few thousand a year nationwide, which was still horrific. But then came 1973, which we all know, the landmark case, Roe versus Wade, and it didn't just change the law, it changed an entire culture. So abortions became this quiet genocide in America. By the time Gen Z was arriving, abortions were treated as procedure, right? Not tragedy. So between 97 and 2012, we lost the equivalent, they say, of New York City and Los Angeles combined in terms of population. And here's something that very few talk about when they talk about abortions, right? The woman at the center of the Roe versus Wade case, who is Norma McCorvey, known as Jane Roe, she later confessed before she died that the entire case was a sham. She said it was built on lies. She said that she was used by activists, the story was a complete fabrication, and that she never even had an abortion herself.
Did they use you as a trophy?
Of course. I was the big fish. You know, I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say, and that's what I'd say.
Wow.
Abortion is wrong. And I, as the former Jane Roe of Roe versus Wade, do regret signing the affidavit for the pro-abortion camps.
It was all an act.
Yeah.
And in her own words, she said, quote, "I was the biggest mistake the court ever made," end quote. So I have to ask, right? Who were these babies? Were they the next doctor that was going to cure cancer? The next inventor, leader, maybe peacemaker? Now we'll never know. They never got the chance to live. And while we argue about rights, their right itself to life vanished. 28% of 61 million babies aborted. That's the equivalent of 1 in 4 of Gen Z peers missing before they even had a name. And if that fact right there doesn't break your heart, if that number doesn't break your heart, I don't know what will. Because look, these weren't statistics, these were souls. Souls that God knew, that he formed, souls we never got the chance to meet. And when I think about that loss, I think one verse in the Bible echoes beyond anything else, and that comes from John 11:35, where it says that Jesus wept. And I believed he wept then, and I believe he weeps now for every single precious life that never got a chance. And I think America, it's time for us to wake up, because a nation that will kill its own children cannot claim to love the future. This is satanic. It is absolutely evil. And before these precious lives have a chance to be able to defend themselves, we must stand up and fight for them. 28%. Let that number sit with you today.